Her fingers didn't shake. Not once in 4 years. Every morning, Amina buttoned Kang Jae-won's cufflinks by touch alone, left cuff, then right, because he couldn't see them. She smoothed the fabric, adjusted the crease of his sleeve, and waited for the small nod that meant good, you're here. At 7:05 a.m., breakfast. At 7:08, eye drops, 3 in each eye, spaced carefully, her thumb steady even when her mind wandered. At 7:40, therapy walks across the polished floor of the seaside villa, slow steps, quiet encouragement, his hand resting lightly on her elbow like a man who had learned to trust darkness more than people. The family paid her to be precise. To be invisible. To treat his blindness like something permanent. What they didn't pay her for was the way her chest tightened whenever his head turned too quickly, like he was following her without needing sound. They said the accident took his sight. A highway crash, years ago. Headlines. Court settlements. Silence afterward. Kang Jae-won, the once untouchable CEO, reduced to a man who counted steps and memorized rooms. The board still answered to him, but inside this villa on the edge of the sea, he was carefully managed. Soft voices. Closed doors. No surprises. And one caregiver who knew his routine better than she knew herself. Amina thought she had learned every version of him. The polite one, when investors visited and he smiled without warmth. The irritable one, when headaches hit and the ocean wind made things worse. The distant one, when he sat facing the window as if he could still see the horizon. But there was another version. A version she only noticed in moments he thought she wasn't there. His face would change, not pain, not sadness. Something sharper. Like listening. Like waiting. Once, months ago, Amina had bent to pick up a pill bottle she'd dropped behind his chair. She had moved carefully, silently. Still, his head turned. Directly toward her. She'd frozen, heart slamming. Then he smiled faintly, as if he'd felt her fear and decided not to touch it. Is that you, Amina? He'd asked. She'd laughed too quickly. Who else would it be, sir? He hadn't replied. Just turned back toward the light. She told herself blind people adapted. They learned sound. They learned air movement. They learned patterns. That was all this was. Patterns. Until the night the villa went dark. It was just after 11 p.m. Amina was folding fresh towels in the service corridor when the lights flickered once, like a blink, and died. The air conditioner shut off. The quiet hum of the security cameras vanished. The silence that followed felt deliberate. A second later, rain slammed against the glass. Hard. Sudden. Amina stood still, listening. The backup generator didn't start. That alone made her uneasy. It always started. She reached for her phone. No signal. No Wi-Fi. Nothing. Then a single alarm chirped somewhere deeper in the villa. Short. Controlled. Not fire. Perimeter. Amina's mouth went dry. She grabbed the emergency candle from the wall cabinet, lit it, and started moving. Her footsteps sounded too loud on the tile. Every shadow felt heavier than the last. As she reached the main hallway, the candlelight caught something that made her stop. Kang Jae-won's bedroom door was open. He never left it open. He hated drafts. Hated the way open space felt when you couldn't see it. A blind man needs control, he'd once said quietly. Amina stepped closer, candle shaking despite her effort. Sir, she called softly. No answer. She entered. The scent of clean linen and his expensive cologne wrapped around her. The flame crawled across the furniture, the therapy chair, the side table, the water glass she always placed on the left. Then it touched the bed. Empty. Her heart dropped. Jae-won, she whispered. She set the candle down, scanning the shadows for him, sitting, confused, hurt. Nothing. Then she felt it. Breath. Close. Amina turned. And froze. He was standing. Not leaning. Not reaching for the wall. Standing in the middle of the room like he had never needed help at all. His sleeves were rolled to his elbows. His posture was relaxed. His face half lit by the candle, the rest swallowed by shadow. His eyes were open. Focused. Not vacant. Amina's voice barely worked. Sir, what are you doing? He didn't move. Don't scream, he said calmly. Her legs locked. You're supposed to be. He took one step toward her. Just one. The sound of bare feet on the floor felt louder than the rain. Amina backed up until the bed pressed into the back of her knees. You changed, he said. She blinked. What? Your clothes. Her pulse spiked. She hadn't told anyone. Earlier, she'd spilled medication on herself and changed into a simple dress from her suitcase. She planned to wash it before morning. You stopped wearing the white uniform, he continued. You can't see, she whispered. A pause. Then his mouth curved into something that wasn't a smile. You're right, he said softly. I'm blind. He leaned closer, voice dropping into her space. But I can still tell you what you're wearing. The candle flickered. Amina's fingers went numb. There's no way, she breathed. He didn't answer right away. Then he said it, slow, deliberate, unmistakably certain. Emerald green. Her blood ran cold. Before she could speak, he added quietly, they cut the generator. Her breath caught. Who? Someone who thinks you belong to them. A shadow shifted outside the room. Footsteps. Measured. Not rushing. A metallic click followed. A lock. A weapon. Amina's body tried to step back, but his hand caught her wrist, firm, precise. No matter what happens, he whispered, stay behind me. A male voice spoke from the doorway. Familiar. Sir. Relief flared, then died. Jae-won didn't relax. That's not security, he murmured. The man stepped in. He should be sedated. Sedated. Jae-won moved forward into the light. The man froze. Because now he saw it too. A man who wasn't supposed to be standing. Jae-won's voice dropped into cold authority. Don't move. A second voice joined from the hall, female, impatient. Find her. Jae-won looked at Amina. They're here for you. Before I continue, if you're still watching, tap like and subscribe now. Comment where you're watching from, because what Amina learns next will change everything she believes about this man. The woman entered the doorway, eyes locking on Amina. Hello, she said softly. It's time to come back. Back to where? Amina whispered. The woman smiled. To the life you forgot. For the rest of the night, Amina would replay that sentence in her head. The life you forgot. But right now, she didn't have time to think. Jae-won moved fast. He shut the bedroom door, locked it, and guided Amina toward the bathroom with a certainty that told her this wasn't his first emergency. Get in the tub, he whispered. Stay low. What about you? She asked, panic cracking her voice. I'll handle the room. She didn't argue. She obeyed. From behind the half-closed door, she watched him move, controlled, trained, nothing like the man she had fed and guided for years. Voices rose in the hallway. Then a crash. Amina covered her mouth to stop a scream. A body hit the wall. A woman cursed. Jae-won spoke again, calm as ever. Tell me who sent you. You should have stayed blind, the woman spat. Jae-won's voice hardened. And you should have stayed away from her. Amina's chest tightened. Away from me? The woman laughed. She was always part of this. Amina's head spun. Jae-won turned slightly, his voice dropping. Amina, whatever they say next, don't believe the first version. Her breath shook. The woman continued, cruel now. You didn't tell her, did you? About the fire? Fire. Jae-won's jaw clenched. Amina whispered, barely audible, what fire? Silence. Then Jae-won spoke the words that made her knees weaken. You were there, he said quietly. The woman smiled wider. She was there, and she walked away. Amina felt something stir deep inside her chest, an ache with no memory attached. I don't remember, she said desperately. That's the problem, the woman replied. Footsteps echoed closer. More people. Jae-won moved back toward the bathroom. Amina, he said softly, do you trust me? She hesitated. 4 years of care. Of routine. Of quiet dependence. And one night that shattered everything. Yes, she whispered. Then listen carefully, he said. If they get you, They will decide who you are. Her throat tightened. And if you stay, she asked. Jae-won looked at her, eyes steady. Then we fight for the truth. The door splintered. Amina closed her eyes. And wondered. If a blind man could see her dress in the dark, what else had he been seeing all along? If you haven't subscribed yet, do it now, because from this moment on, every truth comes with a cost, and Amina won't be allowed to look away again. Now listen. The bathroom door shut softly behind Amina, but her breathing sounded too loud in the small tiled space. She lowered herself into the tub exactly as Jae-won had instructed, knees pulled in, body tight. The candlelight from the bedroom bled through the narrow crack under the door, flickering with movement, shadows passing back and forth like the room was alive. She pressed a hand over her mouth. Outside, voices overlapped. Controlled. Familiar. Dangerous. This isn't necessary, a man said, low, practiced. She's just a caregiver. Jae-won didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. You wouldn't be here if that were true. Amina squeezed her eyes shut. Her mind raced backward, trying to anchor itself to routine. Breakfast times. Medication schedules. Therapy steps. Anything that still felt real. But reality had shifted. Blind men didn't stand in the dark. Blind men didn't describe colors. And blind men didn't move like predators protecting territory. A sharp sound cracked through the room, metal striking tile. Someone cursed. Amina flinched. Then Jae-won spoke again, closer now, like he'd stepped into the center of the storm. Tell me who gave the order. Silence. Then the woman's voice, cool, unimpressed. You always ask questions like you're still in charge. A pause. Then footsteps, measured, approached the bathroom door. Amina's chest tightened. The woman continued, do you know how many people signed off on keeping you exactly the way you were? Jae-won didn't answer. Sedated. Blind. Dependent, the woman said. You were manageable. Amina felt sick. Sedated. She thought of the supplements. The tea she prepared every night. The pills she handed him without question. Her hands began to shake. You don't get to manage people, Jae-won replied. The woman laughed softly. We already did. The bathroom handle twitched. Amina sucked in a silent breath. Jae-won moved fast. The handle snapped back, followed by a thud, someone hitting the wall hard enough to knock the air out of them. Amina covered her ears. A body slid down. Then Jae-won's voice again, closer to the bathroom door now. Amina, he said quietly, whatever you hear next, it's not your fault. Her heart skipped. The woman recovered quickly. You're protecting her, she said. That's new. She's not part of this, Jae-won replied. The woman scoffed. She's the only part that matters. Amina's eyes burned. The woman's heels clicked slowly as she paced. For years, she continued. That's how long we let her stay. Watching you. Feeding you. Gaining your trust. Amina shook her head in the tub, tears slipping down her cheeks. Let her stay. She thinks she applied for this job, the woman said, amused. Isn't that adorable? Jae-won's jaw tightened. Stop. Oh, don't ruin it, the woman replied. She deserves to know how carefully she was placed. Amina pressed her forehead to her knees. Placed. The word echoed. You needed someone calm, the woman continued. Someone gentle. Someone who wouldn't question authority. Amina's stomach twisted. And most importantly, the woman added, someone who wouldn't remember. The room went quiet. So quiet Amina could hear her own pulse. Jae-won spoke slowly now. What do you mean, remember? The woman stopped pacing. That's the risk of miracles, she said. They come with memories. Amina's breath hitched. Jae-won's voice hardened. Answer the question. The woman sighed. She was there. Amina's hands clenched. Jae-won didn't speak. The woman pressed on. Years ago. Before the accident. Before the blindness. Before the empire went quiet. Amina whispered to herself, no. She saw things, the woman said. Heard things. And when children see things they shouldn't, they forget. Or they're made to forget. Amina's vision blurred. Jae-won's voice came low, dangerous. You touched her. The woman laughed. We saved her. Amina felt something crack inside her chest. Saved her from what? A sharp knock echoed through the villa, another entrance being forced. More footsteps. More voices. Jae-won exhaled slowly. They're bringing more, he said. The woman smiled. Of course we are. Then she turned toward the bathroom door. Amina, she called gently. You don't have to hide. Amina didn't move. Come out, the woman continued. You're not in trouble. Jae-won stepped between the woman and the door. She stays, he said. The woman tilted her head. Or what? Jae-won didn't answer. He moved. Amina heard the struggle, quick, violent, contained. A body hit the floor. A sharp breath escaped someone who hadn't expected resistance. Then silence again. Jae-won opened the bathroom door. Amina looked up at him from the tub. For the first time, she saw something in his expression that scared her more than the intruder's. Guilt. Get dressed, he said softly. We're leaving. Leaving where? She whispered. Anywhere but here. Amina stood on unsteady legs, fingers numb as she pulled herself out of the tub. Jae-won handed her a jacket, his, without looking at her. She slipped it on. It smelled like him. Familiar. Wrong. As they stepped into the hallway, Amina saw the aftermath. A man slumped against the wall, unconscious. Another groaning on the floor. The woman, standing now, eyes sharp, adjusting her jacket like this was a business meeting gone slightly off schedule. You can't run forever, she said. Jae-won didn't slow. He guided Amina down the corridor, moving like he knew every blind spot. Because he did. The villa felt different now, no longer a sanctuary, but a cage he'd memorized from the inside. They reached the service stairwell. Jae-won paused. Amina, he said quietly, I need to know something. She looked at him. Do you remember anything, before you came here? Her throat tightened. I don't think so. He searched her face, measuring truth the way he measured threats. Nothing, he pressed. A flicker. A sound. Metal scraping. Amina winced, pressing her fingers to her temple. Sometimes I get headaches, she said. And flashes. But nothing clear. Jae-won nodded once. That may change. She swallowed. Why? Because if I answer honestly, you might never look at me the same again. But he didn't say that. He said, because they're afraid of you. They moved again. Down the stairs. Out the back corridor. Rain greeted them like a slap. The sea roared beyond the cliff edge. Amina stumbled on the wet ground, and Jae-won caught her instantly, steady, strong, sure. Another lie peeled away. They reached the old storage wing near the boathouse. Lights flared behind them, flashlights cutting through rain. A voice shouted, stop. Jae-won pulled Amina behind a concrete pillar. They're sealing exits, he said. Who are they? She whispered. Jae-won hesitated. Then, my family. The words hit harder than the rain. They did this to you? Amina asked. Yes. And they want me, she whispered. Yes. Her voice shook. Why? Jae-won looked at her, rain streaking down his face, eyes sharp and fully awake. Because years ago, he said, you saw the one thing they never wanted a witness to see. Amina's chest tightened. What did I see? Jae-won didn't answer. Instead, he said, if you survive tonight, you'll remember. Flashlights swept closer. The woman's voice echoed across the rain. You're running out of options, Jae-won. He leaned close to Amina. When I say move, don't hesitate. She nodded. A figure rounded the corner. Jae-won shoved Amina forward. They ran. Down toward the boathouse. The sound of the ocean grew louder, violent. Amina's lungs burned. Behind them, footsteps chased. A gunshot cracked the air. Amina screamed. Jae-won pulled her hard to the side as the bullet shattered concrete inches from where she'd been standing. They dove behind a stack of crates. Amina shook uncontrollably. Jae-won's breathing stayed even. You okay? He asked. She nodded, tears streaming. Why are you so calm? She whispered. He didn't answer. Instead, He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small object. A flash drive. If anything happens to me, he said, this goes public. Amina stared at it. What is it? The truth, he said. Footsteps slowed nearby. The woman's voice drifted again, closer now. Amina, she called softly. You don't need him. Amina squeezed her eyes shut. He's been lying to you, the woman continued. Watching you. Testing you. Amina's heart pounded. Jae-won didn't deny it. That silence hurt. The woman smiled. See? Amina opened her eyes and looked at him. Is it true? She asked, voice breaking. Jae-won met her gaze. Yes, he said. The word hit like a slap. I had to know if you were planted, he continued. If you were a threat. Amina's chest ached. So you pretended to be blind. I pretended to be weaker than I was, he corrected. Why didn't you send me away? She demanded. His voice dropped. Because if you left, they would have taken you. Her breath caught. The woman laughed softly. He's not lying about that. Footsteps circled. Amina whispered, so what am I to you? Jae-won didn't answer immediately. Then he said, you're the only person in this place who was never meant to be silent. A crash echoed nearby. They were being surrounded. Amina's pulse raced. Jae-won, she whispered, what if I remember something terrible? He looked at her. Then we deal with it together. She swallowed. Another gunshot. Closer. Jae-won tightened his grip on her hand. This is where you choose, he said. Choose what? Whether you trust the man who watched you, or the people who erased you. Amina's chest rose and fell. She looked at the flash drive. Then at the darkness around them. Then at him. And she realized something terrifying. If a blind man could see her dress in the dark, then maybe she had never been as invisible as she believed. And the question that haunted her as the footsteps closed in was this. If the truth finally comes back to her, will she survive what she did with it the first time? The boathouse smelled like rust, fuel, and old secrets. Amina barely had time to register the space before Jae-won pulled her inside and shut the door behind them. Rain hammered the corrugated roof, loud enough to blur sound but not loud enough to hide footsteps outside. Jae-won moved fast. Too fast for a man who had spent years pretending not to see. He slid a metal bar across the door, tested it once, then crossed the room with purpose. His hands found switches along the wall without searching. A single dim emergency bulb flickered on, throwing uneven light across stacked crates and coiled ropes. Amina stared at him. Everything about him was different now. The way he stood. The way he breathed. The way his eyes tracked the room. Not blind. Never blind. Jae-won reached behind a stack of crates and pulled out a waterproof duffel bag. Amina's voice trembled. You planned this. He didn't look at her. I prepared. For what? She asked. For the day they stopped pretending, he replied. Footsteps slowed outside. Voices murmured. Amina's chest tightened. They're close. I know, Jae-won said. He opened the duffel. Inside were things that made her stomach turn: burner phones, cash, documents sealed in plastic, a small vial of clear liquid, and another flash drive. Amina swallowed. What's that? She nodded at the vial. Jae-won hesitated. Then he said, an antidote. Her heart skipped. To what? To whatever they've been giving me, he replied. And you? Her mouth went dry. They were drugging me. In small doses, he said. Enough to dull memory. Enough to keep you calm. Amina staggered back a step, grabbing the edge of a crate. The tea. The supplements. The headaches. You knew, she whispered. I suspected, he corrected. I confirmed it last year. And you still let me, her voice broke. You still let me serve you those things. Jae-won finally looked at her. I let you think you were normal, he said quietly. Because the day you start questioning your own mind, they win. Amina shook her head, tears burning. You should have told me. If I had, he said, you would have been taken. A metallic scrape echoed outside the boathouse. Someone testing the door. Amina flinched. Jae-won zipped the duffel shut and slung it over his shoulder. We don't have long. Where are we going? She asked. To the pier, he said. There's a boat. You own a boat? She asked incredulously. I own silence, he replied. That's more useful. The door rattled. A voice called out, calm and familiar. Amina. Her blood froze. She knew that voice. It didn't belong to an intruder. It belonged to Madame Seo, the villa's senior administrator. The woman who hired her. Jae-won's jaw tightened. Madame Seo's tone was gentle, almost maternal. Amina, come out. You don't need to be afraid. Amina's throat tightened. She was kind to me. Jae-won didn't respond. Madame Seo continued, you're confused right now. This man has manipulated you. Amina's eyes darted to Jae-won. Manipulated. You should come with me, Madame Seo said softly. We'll explain everything. Jae-won moved closer to Amina. She's lying. Madame Seo sighed. You always were difficult, Jae-won. Silence stretched. Then Madame Seo spoke again, this time, sharper. You should have stayed blind. Amina's breath caught. Jae-won's voice hardened. You authorized the drugs. Yes, Madame Seo replied calmly. And I'd do it again. Amina whispered, why? Madame Seo answered without hesitation. Because you were dangerous. Amina shook her head. I don't remember anything. That's what made you useful, Madame Seo replied. Until tonight. A gun cocked. Amina's heart slammed. Jae-won moved, pulling Amina behind him just as the boathouse door burst open. Light flooded in. Rain. Shadows. Armed men. Madame Seo stood at the center, dry under an umbrella, her expression annoyed rather than angry. You didn't need to run, she said. You belong to us. Jae-won's voice was ice. She belongs to herself. Madame Seo smiled faintly. That's a romantic idea. One of the men raised his weapon. Jae-won didn't hesitate. He shoved Amina to the side and lunged. The next seconds blurred into chaos, gunfire cracking, crates splintering, bodies slamming into walls. Amina screamed as a bullet ricocheted off metal inches from her head. Jae-won fought like someone who had trained for this moment for years. Because he had. He disarmed one man, slammed another into a beam, ducked, rolled, struck again. Amina crawled behind a stack of nets, shaking violently. She watched him move not as her patient, not as a helpless man, but as something dangerous and precise. Madame Seo stepped back, shouting orders. Don't kill him, she yelled. We still need him alive. Need him alive? Jae-won heard it too. His expression darkened. Amina saw the opening. A side door, half hidden behind barrels. She shouted, Jae-won. He followed her gaze instantly. They ran. Rain swallowed them as they burst out the back. The sea roared below the cliff. The pier lights flickered in the distance. Amina slipped on wet concrete, and Jae-won caught her before she fell. Another gunshot. Closer. They sprinted downhill, lungs burning. Amina's legs screamed. Her chest felt like it was tearing apart. They reached the pier. A small fishing boat rocked violently, its engine already idling. An old man at the helm glanced at Jae-won and nodded once. Late, he muttered. Go, Jae-won said, shoving Amina aboard. She stumbled onto the deck. Jae-won jumped in after her. The engine roared louder. As the boat pulled away, headlights flared at the edge of the pier. Madame Seo stepped forward, rain finally touching her face. Amina, she shouted. If you leave, you won't survive what you remember. Amina froze. Remember. Her head pulsed. A sharp pain cut through her temples. Images flashed, too fast to grasp. Fire. Smoke. A screaming voice. Jae-won grabbed her shoulders. Don't listen. Madame Seo's voice carried over the water. You saw him that night. Amina gasped. Saw who? Madame Seo shouted again, louder now. You saw what he did. Amina's knees buckled. The boat lurched as it hit a wave. Jae-won pulled her close. She's lying. Madame Seo's smile widened. Am I? Another figure stepped beside her. A man Amina had seen only in photographs. Kang Minute-ho. Jae-won's stepbrother. Her breath caught. Minute-ho raised his hand in a casual wave. Hello, Amina. Jae-won stiffened. You. Minute-ho smiled. Still pretending to be the hero? The speedboat roared to life behind the pier. Pursuit. Amina's vision blurred. Minute-ho shouted, You left him, remember? Amina screamed, clutching her head. No. Fragments slammed into place. A warehouse. A younger version of herself. Hidden behind crates. Minute-ho shouting orders. Fire spreading. A boy, Jae-won, on the ground, screaming as something burned his eyes. Amina collapsed to her knees. I remember, she sobbed. Jae-won froze. The fisherman shouted, They're gaining. Amina looked up at Jae-won, horror flooding her face. I was there, she whispered. I saw everything. Jae-won's expression didn't change, but something inside his eyes broke. Minute-ho laughed across the water. She remembers. Madame Seo's voice turned cold. Then she's useless to us now. The speedboat closed in. Amina grabbed Jae-won's arm. I didn't help them. I didn't. He looked at her. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he spoke, quietly. I know. Amina shook. How? Because if you had, he said, I wouldn't be alive. The speedboat drew alongside. Men raised weapons. Jae-won reached into the duffel and pulled out the flash drive. You fire, he shouted, and everything goes public. Minute-ho hesitated. Madame Seo swore. The fisherman swerved sharply, throwing the pursuing boat off balance. Amina clung to the railing, heart racing. Minute-ho shouted, furious. You think exposure saves you? Jae-won shouted back, it ends you. The waves slammed between them. The speedboat fell back. Darkness swallowed the water. Silence returned, broken only by the engine and Amina's sobbing breath. She turned to Jae-won. You knew, she whispered. You knew I was there. Yes, he said. You watched me, she said, voice cracking. You tested me. Yes. Why didn't you turn me in? She demanded. Jae-won met her gaze. Because you were a child, he said. And because you ran, and never spoke again. Amina covered her face, shame and fear crashing together. What if they're right? She whispered. What if remembering destroys me? Jae-won's voice softened, dangerously sincere. Then I'll stand with you while it does. The boat disappeared into the dark. Behind them, the island lights faded. Ahead of them, unknown water. Amina stared at the horizon, heart pounding with one final, terrifying thought. If remembering the truth almost got her killed, what will happen when the world finds out what she remembers next? Before we go any further, subscribe now and tap like. You've stayed this far because something real is happening between them, and what unfolds next is the moment everything finally breaks open. Now listen. The boat cut through the water like it was running from a memory. Spray hit Amina's face, cold and sharp, but it grounded her, kept her here, in this moment, instead of back in flames and screaming echoes. She sat near the stern, arms wrapped tight around herself, eyes fixed on the black horizon. Every few seconds, she wiped tears she hadn't noticed falling. Jae-won stood a few steps away, one hand braced against the railing, posture steady despite the rough water. The wind tugged at his coat, revealing the hard lines of a man who had survived by hiding. For the first time since she'd known him, there was nothing left to hide behind. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. The fisherman finally broke the silence. We'll reach the mainland in 30 minutes. After that, you're on your own. Jae-won nodded once. That's enough. The fisherman glanced at Amina, then away. Some storms follow people, he muttered. Be careful which ones you keep. Amina swallowed. The boat rocked hard, forcing her to grab the bench. Jae-won moved instantly, too instinctive to be anything but genuine, and steadied her with a hand at her elbow. His touch was warm. Solid. She looked up at him. For a heartbeat, neither of them moved. Then Amina pulled her arm back, not in fear, but in confusion. Her voice trembled. You knew who I was, from the beginning. Jae-won didn't deny it. I recognized you the first week. Then why keep me? She asked. Why not send me away? He exhaled slowly, eyes on the water. Because they were already watching you. That's not an answer. It's the truth, he said quietly. If I dismissed you, they would have taken you within days. I kept you close because it was the only way to keep you alive. Amina shook her head. You watched me. Every day. Yes. You tested me. Yes. Her chest tightened. Did you ever think about how that would feel, if I found out? Jae-won turned to her then, fully. Every day. The sincerity in his voice undid her. Amina looked away quickly, blinking hard. I trusted you. I know. You let me believe you needed me. I did need you, he said. She scoffed bitterly. You didn't need a caregiver. You needed a shield. Jae-won stepped closer, lowering his voice so only she could hear. I needed someone who wouldn't sell me. Someone who wouldn't disappear when things got ugly. She laughed weakly. That's not exactly romantic. He didn't smile. It's the most honest thing I have. Silence stretched again, thick, loaded. The mainland lights appeared faintly in the distance. Amina hugged herself tighter. I remember everything now. Jae-won's jaw tightened. Are you sure? Yes, she said. The fire. Your stepbrother. Madame Seo. The lies. The cover-up. He waited. And I remember you, she added softly. Before the accident. You were younger, angrier. But you tried to pull me out before everything collapsed. His breath caught, just slightly. I thought you didn't see me, she said. But you did. Yes, he whispered. She turned to him, eyes shining with tears. So tell me something, Jae-won. When you described my dress that night, was that part of the plan too? He hesitated. Then he shook his head. No. Then what was it? His voice lowered. A mistake. She frowned. A mistake. I forgot, he said quietly, that you didn't know yet. Something shifted between them. Amina studied his face, not the powerful CEO, not the man who had survived betrayal, but the man who had slipped, just once, because he'd grown used to seeing her. You shouldn't have said it, she murmured. I know. Then why did you? His eyes met hers. Because I was tired of pretending around you. The boat slowed as it approached the dock. Amina stood, unsteady, and faced him fully now. What happens when we get off this boat? Jae-won didn't pretend to know everything. We expose them. Carefully. Publicly. And after that, she pressed. He searched her face, no longer calculating, only honest. After that. I don't know if you'll want me anywhere near you. Her throat tightened. You used me. Yes. You protected me. Yes. You lied. Yes. And you saved my life. He nodded once. More than once. Amina closed her eyes briefly. When she opened them, her voice was steady. I don't forgive you. Jae-won absorbed that without flinching. You don't have to. But I don't hate you either, she continued. That surprised him. She took a breath. You're the reason I'm alive. And you're the reason I finally remember who I am. He watched her carefully, afraid to hope. The boat docked with a dull thud. The fisherman hopped off, tied the rope, then glanced back at them. This is where I leave you. Jae-won handed him the cash. Thank you. The fisherman hesitated. For what it's worth, storms don't always mean destruction. Sometimes they wash things clean. Then he walked away. Amina and Jae-won stood alone on the dock, the night air heavy with salt and consequence. Sirens wailed faintly in the distance, not chasing, not searching. Just the sound of a world that hadn't caught up yet. Amina stepped forward first. She didn't touch him. She didn't step away either. What happens if they come after us again? She asked. Jae-won answered without hesitation. They will. And you'll fight. Yes. For me, she asked. For the truth, he said. Then, softer, and for you. She studied him for a long moment. Then she said the words that surprised them both. Stay. His breath caught. Amina. Not because I trust you completely, she clarified. But because walking away would mean letting them win again. Jae-won nodded slowly. I'll stay. They walked together toward the road. Not touching. Not distant. Something new, fragile but real, hung between them. At the edge of the dock, Amina stopped. "One more thing," she said. He turned. "When all of this is over," she asked quietly, "who are you when you're not pretending to be blind?" Jae-won considered that. Then he answered, honest and unguarded. "A man learning how to be seen." Her chest tightened. She reached out, not to hold him, not to cling, but to rest her hand briefly over his heart. Just long enough to feel it beat. Then she stepped back. "Then don't lie to me again," she said. "I won't," he promised. They walked into the waiting road together, headlights approaching in the distance, unknown, inevitable. And for the first time since the fire, Amina didn't feel alone. If this story moved you even a little, subscribe now, like this video, and comment, do you believe love can survive betrayal if the truth finally comes out? Because if you stay with them, the next chapter is where everything changes.